TV. And if you're noticing that the light and sound in this video is very different than normal, that is because I moved. I'm in a totally new house right now. If you want to hear more about that, I've done 2 videos over on my vlog channel. One is about the main portion of the house and one is about the creepy basement. So after this video, you could go over there and see my new house. So for a little while, because the house is totally empty, there's going to be this very annoying echo, probably in the next few videos. Echo! So I'm so sorry if that's annoying. I can't help it. It was either I filmed with echoes or I didn't film at all, and I thought you guys would probably want videos. Also, my shirt has a sad angel on it. I don't know why. And static, because we love creepy static. Also, before we get started, don't forget I have some new of these, so. Alright, the first book is called A Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein. It's a book of poetry and drawings that was published in 1981. People say that the book is silly enough for kids, but sophisticated enough for adults to enjoy as well. But others say the book is just slightly too sophisticated for kids. There's 135 poems, and a lot of them have very disturbing themes. So much so that this book was banned from elementary schools in 1986. So here are some examples of some pages that are in the book. The first poem is called Carrots. They say that carrots are good for your eyes. They swear that they improve your sight, but I'm seeing worse than I did last night. You think maybe I ain't using them right? It's kind of funny, but it's also disturbing that this kid literally put the carrots into his eyes thinking it would help his eyesight. Obviously not. And the next poem is called Me Stew. I have nothing to put in my stew, you see. Not a bone or a bean or a black-eyed pea. So I'll just climb into the pot and see if I can make a stew out of me. I'll put in some pepper and salt and I'll sit. In the bubbling water, I won't scream a bit. I'll sing while I simmer. I'll smile while I'm stewing. I'll taste myself often to see how I'm doing. I'll stir me around with this big wooden spoon and serve myself up at 1:15 noon, so bring out your stew bowls, you gobblers and snackers. Farewell, and I hope you enjoy me with crackers. There's something intriguing about these very strange poems, but the reason they were banned is because teachers and parents thought that this was encouraging kids to do very dangerous things. Carrots in your eyes, stepping into a stew, and there's so many other creepy and crazy poems in this book. There was also this other poem that told kids that if they didn't want to do the dishes, all they had to do was throw them on the floor and break them, and then they wouldn't have to do chores anymore. So as you can see, it's telling kids to do some very erratic bad behavior. Alright, the next book is called The Lonely Doll, and this is the description of the book. Once there was a little doll. Her name was Edith. She lived in a nice house and had everything she needed except someone to play with. So this whole book is basically this doll doing different things around the house. She's completely moving around on her own while her owners are away. So I could definitely see why people thought this book was eerie, especially because it's these old black and white images of this doll moving. But I'm also like intrigued by this as well because I was totally into like the whole Toy Story thing where when you're not looking, your toys are alive, so I love this book. They actually came out with a real Edith the Doll toy for the book's 40th anniversary. So if you want to buy this creepy moving doll, they actually made a toy for it. Alright, the next book is called Love You Forever by Robert Munsch. Now let me just tell you, this book was my entire childhood. The amount of times my parents read this to me before I fell asleep, I can't even count. This book came out in 1986 and it's about the unconditional love between a parent and a child. And when you hear that description, you're like, wow, that sounds great, right? And don't get me wrong, the first half of the book is really, really sweet. And I feel like anyone watching that grew up in the early 2000s or the 90s, you know this book. The book starts off with a mother rocking her child and she sings to him, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. So this kid gradually grows up, so he turns 2, and every night this mother crawls into his bedroom and stares at him. And then she picks him up and sings him that song, which is still kind of normal, not that creepy just yet. I just love how the book literally says, she opened the door to his room and crawled across the floor. Are you joking me? What happened to just walking? Then the baby gets older, he turns 9 and starts driving her crazy. But at night, she creeps into his room, picks him up, and sings the same song. I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. So okay, he's 9 years old, it's starting to get a little strange, but it's still okay. Then this boy grows into a teenager, and she still crawls into his room at night, picks him up, and sings him the same song. This mother must be going to the gym every day to pick up a full-grown teenager. I feel like if my mother came into my room while I was in high school and told me she wanted to rock me to sleep, I'd be like, no. Get out of my room, Mom. I'm on Tumblr right now. Finally, this teenager becomes a man. He moves out of the house, gets his own place. So what does she do on dark nights? Oh, she finds his house. The book literally says that on dark nights, not just normal nights, on dark nights, she brings a ladder, climbs up to his bedroom window, crawls into his room, picks him up, and rocks him back and forth, and sings that same song. I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. Now listen, Ty and I have our own house, okay, away from my parents. I love them dearly, but we do have our own place, and I feel like if in the middle of the night my mother crawled into my room on a ladder, I would like call the police. I'm just kidding, I wouldn't call the police, but I would be very concerned. We've got some breaking and entering happening here. The book goes on with the mother getting so old that the son ends up rocking her and singing the song. And honestly, this part is really sweet. I feel like it ends off on a positive note. Like, she has taken care of him his whole life, and finally when she's too old to take care of herself, he steps in and takes that motherly role over. So yeah, it ends very sweet. It has a very good message, but I feel like all the illustrations and like the weird parts with the rocking when he's way too old to be rocked. So I feel like that's why people find this book to be a little bit creepy. The next book I'm gonna have trouble pronouncing, I'm so sorry. It's called Struwwelpeter. This is an 1845 German children's book. By Henrik Hoffman. It's filled with these illustrated rhymes that are mainly for children, and each has a clear moral that demonstrates the disastrous consequences of misbehavior in an exaggerated way. So these rhymes are very, very creepy and disturbing to read to a little kid. There's frightening tales of children nearly drowning because they're too busy looking up to notice the river in front of them. Another one about these kids that didn't want to eat their pea soup, so they got so skinny that they died. And another story about kids getting their thumbs cut off by a red-legged scissor man because they were sucking their thumbs. So each page is like a creepy story with a picture just aimed to scare kids, to make them behave. The next story is called There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. I feel like everybody knows this rhyme, and let me tell you, this was one of the scariest rhymes that I was ever told as a kid. And I know it's not supposed to be scary, but if you really listen to what the words are saying, what? The song tells the nonsensical story of an old woman who swallows increasingly large animals, each to catch the previous swallowed animal, but dies after swallowing a horse. Whenever someone read this book to me, I felt so uncomfortable, and seeing this old woman's mouth with her creepy teeth eating all these animals? No. First, she swallows a fly, which isn't a very big deal, right? We've all swallowed flies. I could go bike riding and swallow a fly. Like, it happens. I think I actually swallowed a fly like 2 days ago. But then she swallows a spider, then a bird, then a cat, then a dog, then a goat, then a cow, and then lastly a horse, and that's how she dies. You're telling me when she swallowed the cow, she was okay? And that's how the story ends. And like, you want to read me that before bedtime? Excuse me, no. I'm not too sure like what the moral of this book was or like what the point was, but I couldn't read it. And lastly, we have a book called Hecate Peg. This was written in 1987, and in this story, 7 sweet children are transformed by an evil witch into specific types of food, and their mother has to come save them. And the odd thing about this book is that these 7 children are named after the days of the week. So there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those are the kids' names. They run into this witch who wants to turn them into food, and just as